Giving teachers an opportunity to help their children feel safe and comfortable. All of those little personal touches that help people see that you care, I think help make it an easier transition for families.
All right, what's up everyone? This is Anthony Kim, and I'm excited to share with you this conversation I have with Alina Davis, who is a program specialist for family engagement at Orange County Public Schools and also on the board of ASCD. I talked to her about just this shift in family engagement, what families actually expect from school districts now and how that's completely changed. And so I think you're really gonna find this conversation interesting because family engagement is just top of mind for everybody right now. See you on the other side. Alina, thank you so much for joining me for this interview around such an important topic that we've experienced over the last year, which is, family engagement in school systems. And you represent such a large district, Orange County School District in Florida. How have you seen families' desires for how a district communicates with them and how they engage them shift through the pandemic, and what do you expect kind of coming out?
For our listeners, Orange County Public Schools is, I think, the 8th largest district in the country. We're an urban school district. We have over 150 languages spoken, very diverse communities. In my current role, I help support 89 Title I schools, and we have parent engagement liaisons in those schools. And prior to the pandemic, most of their focus was on building family engagement, offering activities that are linked to learning, helping families feel welcomed and part of the school. And then once we shifted into the COVID pandemic, their roles changed quite a bit, and they became the main bloodline to the school. I need help with my student getting logged on the computer. I need help finding housing. I don't know what to do about my internet, trying to find resources. And so those kind of shifts have really had to help our engagement liaisons think a little bit differently about their role in their outreach. And I think that part of that has led to a deeper relationship with families, so that now that we're in that comfort zone of, okay, I know who I can reach out to, I know how to find support as the students come back to school and as we go more towards a normal sense of life, I think those family connections are going to be a lot stronger. But I know along the way, the steps have been challenging for each school, and it's been very individual based on their community needs.
So I feel like there's like a mental model shift that must have happened, because all of a sudden you have systems in place that you try to execute more efficiently on, and now like those systems didn't work, so you had to adapt and really kind of personalize and customize for the specific needs of those students and families. And so I'm curious, how can organizations or teams actually shift from an efficiency model to maybe an effectiveness model in this kind of work?
Well, I think one of the main pieces you can look at that is how the whole system is structured and what kind of leadership you have in place. Mm-hmm. There are 4 other program specialists like me, and we're the ones that are that voice from the district to the school. And so we have communication methods with them through our Canvas courses. We access our principal network, and we provide them with kind of a structure of, here's some systems that you can use to help plan your day and organize your week. We introduce communication logs, keeping track of who you've reached out to, how you found them, what tools and resources that they need. When it comes to engagement through learning activities, are we using social media? What works better? Facebook Live, hosting a webinar. And so by looking at it from the sky level, we're able to help align different schools with each other so they can figure out what's working best for their groups. For example, we have some schools that have a high migrant population. And so the outreach to find those families might have required more home visits, knocking on doors. How can we help you? Where are you? What resources do you need? And others might just be a quick phone call or sending an email out mass wide. And so I think that when you have some different structures accessible, and then you can kind of plug into the ones that work best for you, then I think you can have a better success rate through that process. But we also have to listen a lot to our families and to our teachers. Teachers were actually one of the best ways to reach parents, because if the student's not sitting in the classroom, you have to find them. And the teachers will let you know, hey, I can't find this student. I've contacted the parent through email, through phone mail, through a phone call, and I just can't reach them. And so by having some just consistent practices in place is helpful. And the communication piece is really critical.
Hopefully we never have to relive last year and all the things that we had to do. But if you had to like relook at that and kind of do it again, what are some like things that you were like surprised by? What are some things that you wish you had known and would redo? Like, what are some tips that we could give as we kind of venture into 2021 for folks?
Living in such a large city, there's a lot of resources, and having access to those resources and even knowing what exists is very complicated. I think that one of the items that we all scrambled for right at the start was how to get word out to what resources are available. Mm-hmm. So I think having a streamlined system of communicating resources that are offered by the county, that are offered by the hospitals and things like that, all in one location would be a really helpful strategy for a place that's so vast. Being in Central Florida, the theme park industry is huge, mm-hmm. and the number of families impacted is just insane. And so how can you provide those supports to help them continue to work or to continue to have access to food and things like that? And just when you think about big systems, there's just so many pieces to it.
One thing I totally forgot that you guys are in like Disney World, Epcot Center, that whole, mm-hmm. Orlando, basically, right?
Yep.
And yeah, like when you talked about just the impact the pandemic has on theme parks is tremendous, right? They've been shut. And the scale and the magnitude of that is unbelievable. And I'm one thing that occurred to me as you were describing that is the work that you guys have to do as a school district, especially in a system this large, is the scale of this is huge, right? Like the number of families you impact, the number of people in the workforce, the ripple effect of, mm-hmm. Schooling to the economy is ginormous. And as you think about this, did it ever surprise you how big the impact is that schools have in all of this? Or was this something that you were always aware of?
So we have over 205,000 students in our district. We have over 200 schools. That's huge. I had the opportunity over, I guess it was from March to June, to help support our food distribution. We have several hotels that act as temporary housing for some of our homeless. And so we had various locations around the district where we went daily to deliver food, and then moved to like a couple times a week, once a week, so that families would have access. And even though on paper, I understand the numbers, and even just in my community, people that are impacted, it really made me just go, wow, when I'm standing in the parking lot of Home Suites location, and these families come over with tears in their eyes, thanking us for food. And it really realized, I just kind of was like, it's more than just not being in school. A lot of these kids relied on that. These families mm-hmm. relied on that. And now many of them don't have jobs. And so they're relying mm-hmm. on it even more. But it is very vast. And when you think about the kinds of work that our families have in the tourism industry, hourly positions, a lot of them don't have benefits. Right. Many of them are working multiple jobs. They speak different languages. They may not have English as a first language. And so they're really struggling to find those resources. A lot of stress across the county, for sure.
As you think about the family relationship with the district and the work you have to do, what's evolved in your thinking and how you engage families going forward?
It's so different depending on the community that you're serving. Mm-hmm. If you have a school where 95% of your families are Hispanic, and the students are the ones that know the English and the families are mm-hmm. struggling, you have to have people on your staff that are able to communicate and get messages out in the outlets mm-hmm. that those families use. Email is not going to be the best way to reach those families. They need you to be calling them. They need to be able to come in and have that hands-on opportunity to learn how to use the computer so their child can access it. Mm-hmm. Then you may have another family area where They were heavily impacted by Disney shutdowns, and these are families that were middle high income families, and now they're not working, and so their needs are different, and they may not want to be as visible with the changes for them. And so I think that you have to really individualize and get to know your families and know what works best for them.
Knowing that there's so many different needs, how do you do the pattern recognition for the team so that, you know, at least there's some organizing factors that allow you to know that you're kind of addressing clusters the way that they need to be addressed?
So within our department, the four program specialists, we support 89 Title I schools, and they're spread across the district. Our district is divided into learning communities. So we each have 2 learning communities that we support. So within those learning communities, there's a contact at the school, and they are the ones that actually have that direct connection to the parents and help them find the resources that they need. We provide on-site coaching visits as well as virtual visits and professional development throughout the year to help the engagement liaisons to feel confident in their role to be able to support their families. We teach them about equity. We teach them about communication. We teach them about welcoming learning environments, how to utilize your community for resources. And so when you think about that large system, if you're able to chunk it down smaller in that kind of a way, it makes it more manageable. And then just when we go on visit to visit, we might hear a central theme, or we might see that these 4 schools have this need and these 5 schools have a different need. And so we're able to kind of align them together and help them build on their community resources. We also meet frequently as a team within our district office to figure out, you know, what is it that these schools are struggling with? What else do we need to bring in for them? We really listen to our engagement liaisons because they're our feet on the ground. They have those connections with the families. And so if they're saying we need more training in this, then we find ways to get that training for them.
From the interactions you've had with leaders, whether it's within the district or within the community of these types of requests, what would be some tips that you would give them to help you actually execute on some of the things better than you have been already?
When I think about community engagement, you think of an area where you have churches, you have businesses, you have community centers. We do a lot of work with those groups. They provide us with lots of resources, whether it's after school childcare or a place to have meal distribution, things like that. They're present in the community at times when we can't be. And so the relationship that the school builds with those entities, I think, is really critical. A mass email about an event that's going on may not be the way to reach community B. Community B might need to have you go to their churches on Sunday and say, hey, here's a parenting strategy workshop that we're offering. Can you help us get that word out? And so having that neighborhood feel, trying to keep it very close and knowing who to reach out to is really critical. And I think that if you are a community member, that if you want to serve your community, you need to go into the schools, whether it's through volunteering, through providing donations to run programs, or just offering a space within the community where families can gather. That's a really important connection that needs to happen because the school is just one entity in the whole community. And if there's a way to bring everybody together, then you're benefiting your community.
What do you believe now for how ready students are going to be and families are going to be to go into a school environment? Is there more kind of SEL support and mental health that's going to be needed? I'm curious, like, what would you recommend to the instructional leaders from what you're hearing families really need? Absolutely.
So we're kind of ahead of the game in regard to students coming back to school. Our governor required for us to have a face-to-face option from day one. As the quarters have progressed, I would say we're about halfway. 50% of our students have come back to their schools. Social emotional learning is definitely a critical piece in that because we're all feeling anxiety, whether we're 3, whether we're a principal, whether we're a classroom teacher. And so really thinking through the different barriers that keep families from wanting to be there are really important. I am so impressed and proud of our custodial staff across our district on how well they clean. our instructional teachers who have to work with the kids to keep their masks on. It's really incredible to watch. Some of the structures I've seen in place is, we have big stickers on the floor that tell the kids where to stand. They play funny games with them as they walk down the hallway to encourage them to wear their masks. And giving teachers an opportunity to help their children feel safe and comfortable. All of those little personal touches that help people see that you care, I think help make it an easier transition for families.
Alina, thank you so much for sharing your insights and your experience. I think just the magnitude of what you guys are doing is incredible, and so wonderful to hear how you're serving the community, especially in a place that has been devastated by the pandemic with, tourism being gone, conferences being gone, theme parks being, decimated in many ways.
Thank you. It was a privilege to be here.
I hope you enjoyed that conversation with Alina Davis. I'm sure you got some really great tips on how to engage families differently, the need for differentiation based on the families that you're trying to serve. Communities have such diverse family needs that we really need to think about how to offer different options to different families. And so with that, peace.